I just want you to hear this and ask yourself, am I one of the 99% of the population that talks a lot, or am I one of the 1% that I talk less and do more? Hello, and welcome to the Phoenix Rising podcast, where we have conversations around topics that are meant to inspire and empower you in your life so that you can show up as your best self. I am your host, Ashley Drummonds. Welcome to today's episode, where we are going to talk about how you can stop overthinking and start doing. I'm going to explain to you a couple things that cause overthinking so you can recognize them in your own life. And we're also going to talk about how you can get past overthinking in certain areas so that you can actually move forward in your life. This happens all the time. It's called paralysis analysis or procrastination, one of the biggest things. And it's usually times when you have specific things that you know you need to do in order to move forward, but you get stuck because you are too much in the planning phase or overthinking way too much instead of just acting. And there's a lot of great books around this and a lot of things in business and entrepreneurship, but also in fitness and any area in life about the power behind just doing things even without a plan. My personality is a little impulsive, so sometimes I do this to an extreme where I have no plan at all, and I'm like, well, I'll just figure it out. Like, what's the worst case scenario? I go backwards. At least doing this, I go totally forwards. And I mean, sometimes like having more structure is better. But paralysis analysis, procrastination, hesitating to pull the trigger on things in your life you know you need to, all comes from one common thing: fear. You are scared. You are afraid. And subconsciously, you come up with all these different reasons of, oh, I have to plan first how to make a plan. And then once I have that plan, I need to research that plan and make sure that it's done. And then I got to research some other things too. And you end up stuck in this vicious cycle over and over where weeks go by, months go by, and all you've been doing is planning and thinking and researching. And then you're like, oh my God, another year went by and I haven't actually done anything. And then you set your goals from New Year's and you're like, all right, this year's going to be different. I'm going to do it. And then you start out, and then what happens? You repeat the same cycle. What does this actually look like? Okay, so here's an example of this. I used to see this all the time, and it would drive me nuts in entrepreneurship when I was coaching other entrepreneurs in business, and they're at the very beginning of, I have an idea for a product that I want to turn into a business, and I'm trying to get things going. And I would work with them on business coaching on how to take an idea, turn it into an actual product line, and then sell it online or in retail or whatever you want to do. And the question that everybody always asks in the beginning when I would start explaining like the story behind the protein pancake business that I had is they're like, well, how did you even know how to do any of that? And I'm like, what do you mean? I didn't know what I was doing. And they're like, well, how do you know where to start? And the answer is you start with whatever the first step in front of you is. So one of the common mistakes, and we're going to apply this to a lot of different areas, not just business, maybe it's relationships, maybe it's fitness for you. But one of the common mistakes I would always see is people who want to start a new business and they're like, all right, so step one, let me make a business plan. Then let me do market research. Then let me research investments and loan. Then let me research web developers. Then let me research how much you need for this. And the whole time I'm like, you're going to spend 6 months researching before you even make a dollar. What are you doing? And it's all this planning and planning and researching and planning. And really what happens is you become a researcher, not an entrepreneur. You become a thinker, not an actual doer. When in reality, all that energy that you are spending should be spent on the things that are going to move the needle. And the way you would be moving the needle in this example of a business is go actually create a product or a service and then sell it. Once you have that, there's your market research. If it sells, great. You have a good idea or you have a product that other people are willing to exchange their money for. If it doesn't sell, you don't need to write a business plan. You don't need to figure out market research. You don't need to find investors and loans. And you end up wasting all that time just to find out like, oh, actually, nobody even wanted this product or service. Instead, What can you do and take action on that's right in front of you right now that moves you forward even just a little bit? And then it's kind of balancing between like, okay, action, plan. But too many people get stuck in the planning process that they never actually act. How does this apply to other areas of your life? Let's use fitness. Let's use fitness because here's the other thing I see happen too. People decide, all right, I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to eat healthy. I'm going to get in shape. They start planning out their grocery list. They start buying all the gym clothes. They start planning out how many days a week they're going to work out and writing out a whole workout routine or like watching it online or researching what's the best diet, what's the best gym routine, what's the best way to lose weight. All this time when in reality, the way you move the needle and you actually lose weight is you go get the gym membership and you go to the gym. Go to the gym every single day, even if you don't know what you're doing. And at least you're taking action. And as you keep going, you'll learn. You'll notice what other people are doing, or you hire a coach, or you hire a personal trainer. But as long as you're just stuck in the planning phase, you're not going to lose any weight. You're not going to move forward and nothing's going to happen. And then you're going to feel like you failed at your goal when the truth is you never even started the goal. You planned to start. Again, use this in your relationships. Use this in anything where all you've been doing, if you're honest with yourself, is thinking and planning and figuring out with zero action. One of my biggest pet peeves is no follow through. It's the whole thing. When I lived in LA, Los Angeles, there was this whole joke about LA people or LA friends. And I'm sorry, anybody who's from Los Angeles, I'm not making fun of it, but I kind of am. I'm not a fan of LA. It's just not for me. But I didn't know this when I moved there because I'm very much, if I say something, I'm going to do it. If we talk about something, we're doing it. Like that's how I've always lived. And when I was meeting people out in LA, there was this common LA thing that I was unaware of where people be like, oh my God, we should totally grab a drink. Or like, hey, we should like go check that out one day. I took that very literal of like, okay, cool. Like, when do you want to do this? And I got like my phone out and I'm like ready to plan things. And they're like, oh, I'll just, we'll catch up. We'll get together. I'm like, oh, okay. And then nothing ever happens. And then what I learned is that's just a thing you say. That's just a thing you say that you don't actually do of like, oh yeah, we should hang out. Oh yeah, we should get together. And me over here, like, all right, like looking at the calendar, I'm free on Wednesday at 3:00. Does that work for you? And they're like, oh shit. I'll text you, I'll message you. And then you never hear from them. That is the biggest pet peeve for me because what that tells me right there is you are somebody who talks, not somebody who actually does. Thank you for weeding yourself out of my life that we would not make a good friend connection with that. But ask yourself this same thing. Are you doing that in your own life? Are there areas of your life where you are out of integrity, where what you are saying is outweighing what you're actually doing? Is your family tired of hearing you talk about this big idea and dream that you have for the last 3 years that you've never actually done anything with, to the point that they're not even listening? They're like, yep, that's great. Yeah, that's a great idea. Good for you. But because you haven't taken any action on it, nobody's taking you seriously. Or are you somebody who's always talking about like, oh, you know what? One day I'm just going to like move and I'm going to go start over in a new place and I'm going to explore and become this whole new person. But you've been saying that for so long that everybody's like, what's really going to happen is tomorrow you're going to wake up and do the same thing you do every single day because all you do is talk about it. You don't actually do anything about it. The thing you have to detach from, but first acknowledge, is the fear that has you doing that. And a lot of times this is subconscious. So with the whole business thing, using that analogy, a lot of times people spend so much time in the planning and researching and figuring out because it gives the false illusion that you are moving forward, when in reality, it's the fear that if you actually just started and put yourself in a vulnerable situation of not knowing what you're doing, but figuring it out as you go, there's a possibility you could fail. There's a possibility you could look stupid. It's the fear of not being perfect, the fear of looking stupid, the fear of making other people upset, the fear of being disliked. I mean, you know what the fear is that's connected to it, but that's what always keeps us in this place. And there's no way around it but to actually do. That's the only antidote to that paralysis analysis is action. The only antidote to fear is action through it. It doesn't go away. You can't get rid of fear. It's always going to be there. And if you're waiting for fear to go away, like you are always going to be waiting and staying exactly where you are. But each time you take action, even the smallest action, that fear gets a little bit quieter because now you're learning to trust yourself. Now you're learning to build confidence. Now you're realizing that thing that kept you stuck, that you were so scared of, isn't that scary, and you can figure it out. You can handle it. Whatever it is, you can handle it. So acknowledging the fear, going back, like it really is, like think about it with the gym situation. If you're planning, you're buying the gym clothes, you're researching all this stuff, instead of just going to the gym and starting to work out, why are you not just going to the gym and asking somebody, well, I don't want to look stupid. I don't want to go to the gym and look stupid and be the person that doesn't know how to use a machine. Why? Who cares? At least you're doing something and moving forward. Why don't you just, this great business idea, this product or service that you have, why don't you just go tell a stranger about it and see if they're interested? See if they want to buy it. See if they even think it's a good idea. Why don't you just do that? Well, because I'm scared they won't like it. Okay, well, you're going to get your answer then of whether or not to build the business. At least it saves you time. You're scared to ask that person out on a date. So you keep planning how you're going to do it. Like, oh, next time I see them here, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to slide into their DMs on social media, or I'm going to do this. Like, why don't you just go up and talk to them? Why don't you just have a normal conversation? Be like, hey, I like you. You want to grab coffee? You want to hang out? Why don't you do that? Because you're scared. What if they reject you? Well, if they reject you, at least you're not wasting your time figuring and wondering, and then years go by and nothing ever happens. Like, I think it's getting to the bottom of liking yourself enough to be disliked by other people. It's having the courage to be disliked, having enough love for yourself that, listen, I'm probably going to fall on my face a few times, and probably look like an idiot, but it doesn't really matter because who cares what other people think? The interesting thing about all this is, like, in this world of social media and influencers, and I don't even like the name influencers because that's a whole other thing we could talk about. But the thing is, it's not the people in the gym taking a million selfies that are making the difference. It's not those people that are making the impact because they're not actually doing anything. They're just standing in the mirror taking a selfie. Does that inspire you? That doesn't inspire me. That doesn't impact me at all. That makes me roll my eyes and I'm like, hey, can you get out of the way? Like, I need to use that piece of equipment. Those aren't the people that are making the difference. The people that are making the difference are the people who are actually in the gym, doing the work, in the zone, focusing, and just letting their actions and what they do speak louder than some selfie on social media. It's the same thing in business. It's not the people who are sitting there running around telling you how much money they're making. Nobody really cares. That's not what inspires people. At least that doesn't inspire me because there's a lot of factors that go into how much money you can make anyways. What inspires me is watching people work, watching people figure it out, watching people do it, and somehow coming out on the other end. It's the brave people that they're like, listen, I don't have a clue of how to do this. I actually have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm going to do it anyways. And you might fail, but doesn't that inspire you a whole lot more? Like, I just want you to hear this and ask yourself, am I one of the 99% of the population that talks a lot and says a lot, but I don't actually do a lot? Or am I one of the 1% that I talk less and do more? Leaders, people who make an impact in other people's lives, are not the people who tell you, think about this on the smallest scale. The friends that make the biggest impact in your life are not the ones that are like, all right, well, let me know if you need anything. I'm here. It's the ones that get in the car, drive to your house, and they're like, I'm here. What do you need? The actual action, not the words, the actual action. That's what makes a difference. So where in your life are you talking and overthinking and over planning, all because it's fear-based, when you could throw all that out the window and just forget about it and put all that energy into be like, okay, enough thinking, enough planning. What is step one that I actually need to do? If it's fitness, go get the damn gym membership and actually go to the gym. And know, like, if you have no idea what you're doing, you're going to have anxiety. You're going to have all these fears and like insecurities come up, but be brave enough to do it anyways. And if you have to, hire a personal trainer, hire a nutrition coach. That's what they're there for, to help you. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. If you want to start a business, before you even start a business plan, go ask 5 people that you don't know what they think about your idea, not needing them to like it, just to take action and be like, all right, let me actually do something that really makes progress. If it's a relationship, go talk to the person and ask them out. Like, action has become so small in our society. And it's like we just live in this world with a bunch of people who talk and talk and talk and don't actually follow any of that through with anything. Don't be that kind of person. And I would imagine you're not that kind of person. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to this podcast or watching that video, because you want to be your best self. You want to be a leader. You want to make an impact. You want to be somebody of integrity that you could live your life not saying a word and people would know who you are just by the actions that you take and what you represent as a person. Like, that, I think, is the greatest testament of character. As if I never talked to you and I just watched you, would I know everything I needed to know about you? Instead, everybody's just talking and we're all sitting there just waiting for people to do anything. Please just do something. And nobody is. So what area in your life, relationships, business, fitness, nutrition, money, friendship, whatever it is, where have you been overthinking, overplanning, when deep down it's like, just do it already? Just do it. Do not let another year go by where you have talked a lot and done little. So now we have to flip to the other end of the spectrum, because there could be another reason why you're not doing anything and you keep planning and figuring things out. And I'm talking about this at the end because this is less common than people just being fear-based. The other reason you could be talking and not doing is because you don't really want the things you talk about. You don't actually want to start a business. You just think it's cool to say you're an entrepreneur. So you wear the hat and you do all the planning, but you've never sold anything in your life. You don't actually want the relationship, but you like the distraction of having someone that you find attractive, but you have no intention on actually dating them. You don't actually want to lose weight, but that's what everybody else is doing. So if you act like that, maybe you fit in a little bit better. So as with everything with this podcast, I would challenge you to take out a piece of paper, figure out, ask yourself, I mean, literally, that was my pen clicking, take out a pen and paper, say, where have I been stuck in my life? In what area? And it can be something super small. Write it out. Where am I stuck? Where every year I repeat the same pattern over and over and over again. And if you're not sure, ask a loved one, ask a close friend or family. Be like, hey, I'm doing some personal growth. I was just wondering, where do you think I continue to stay stuck? Or where do you think like I could use a little bit of help or extra support? And I guarantee you the people closest to you would be happy to help you and be like, well, I feel like you've been struggling a little bit with this or that. And when you do that, you at least have something that you can take back and be like, okay, let me be honest with myself. Obviously, this is an area I'm not moving forward in. Why am I not moving forward? Is it fear-based, or is it more so because this isn't actually what I want? The best thing you can do, though, is just start. It's so funny because, like, I remember the first time I ever did a box jump. Box jumps freak everybody out because you're scared you're going to face plant, or you're afraid you're going to like skin up your knee. And so instead of doing them, people, and this has happened so many times when I've like taught fitness classes, they're like, hey, instead of box jumps, can I do step ups? And I'm like, is it because you have a knee problem or it's because they scare you? And most of the time they're like, they freak me out. I'm like, okay, so you're not going to do step ups. What we're going to do instead is we're going to work on that fear. We're going to scale it in a way that like you feel comfortable with. I'm going to stand right here and listen. If the fear is like you're going to face plant or fall, I usually show them on my shins where I've already done that of like, hey, I've already done it. It's going to happen to you. It doesn't matter if you're good at these or not. Like it will happen. You will fall. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, go ahead and try. Yeah, it might hurt a little bit. And then you keep trying and trying. And I know I always use fitness as an analogy, but it's because it really does bring up some of the deepest fears that you have. So I always try and encourage people if you are taking a big leap for the first time, or if you are used to always talking and not actually doing, just accept that you're probably going to mess up. If it's your first time asking somebody out who you really like and your fear is rejection or that they say no, just acknowledge, like, you know what? I might do this and they're probably going to reject me. Like, already acknowledge that fear because then you're not like trying to dismiss it. You're already getting familiar with that feeling of like, I'm going to do this, but let me just first like recognize, like, they're probably going to say no. And it may surprise you. They may not, like, they may say no, but it doesn't really matter because you're like, all right, well, cool. At least I did it. If your fear is starting the business, go into it. Like, people are probably going to think this is a stupid idea and nobody's going to buy this. And then do it anyway. Like, it's kind of reverse psychology where your greatest fear, you're kind of living it and playing it in your mind so that it no longer has power over you, so that you can move forward understanding what's at stake. If pain is your biggest fear, run that movie through your mind, feel it, acknowledge it, and then be like, okay, I can handle this. Because that's really what it comes down to is like, whatever happens, you've got this. You can handle this. You can do big, scary things. You can get rejected. You can fall on your face. You can be disliked. You can have people disagree with you. You can totally fall 20 stories down and get right back up, and life is going to continue. It's the whole joke of like, but did you die? No, you're still here. So it's okay. You can keep going. Just don't let yourself fall into the mental illusion or trap that all this planning that you're doing is really like because you actually are planning, when in reality, plans don't really take that much time. Where do you want to eat? Chipotle. Cool. Plan, done. Get in the car, go. What do you want to do? Rest. Great. TV off, shoes off. I'm going to lay on the couch. Here we go. Like, there's really not that much to plan. So be honest with yourself, recognize that, be gentle and loving and compassionate with yourself. If the thing that has been keeping you in this place is fear, lean into that. Fear of what? Fear of being disliked, fear of pain, fear of starting over, fear of looking like an idiot, fear of not being good enough, whatever that is, lean into it and then give it the attention that it needs. And what it needs is attention from you, not from other people. That is a huge problem, is people are always looking to other people to fix the fear, to help them move forward. Let me know it's safe and then I'll move forward. Let me know I won't be rejected and then I'll move forward. Let me know I'm not going to look like an idiot and then I'll move forward. When what that fear really needs is you. You being there with yourself, being like, hey, I recognize like this is what we're scared of. But even if this happens, even if the worst case scenario happens, I still like you. I'm still here. I've got you. If everybody else decides they hate you, it's fine. Dig into that, lean into the fear, and then do what you know you need to do to move forward. Anything to move the needle, because I want you to continue to grow, to become your best self and become who I know deep down you really want to be. And the only way you're going to do that is by taking action, not talking, doing, and being. Then you're going to see results. Take a deep breath. That thing that scares you, when you finish listening to this video or this podcast, I want you to go take one step, one actionable step within the next hour or so. And then tell me about it. Send me a message. Leave me a comment. Let me know. But be somebody who has enough integrity and enough respect for yourself that you're no longer going to be somebody who just talks about things. You actually do things because you deserve it, you're worth it, and the world needs more people who actually take action and not just sit back and planning or overthinking. All right? I hope you go check out some of the other videos. Go take action where you know you need to take action in your life. And I will see you next week on the Phoenix Rising podcast. Bye, guys.